You are listening to the world's only podcast about Dungeons and Dragons advice. No plan, no problem.
Hey everybody, welcome to No Plan, No Problem, a weekly D&D advice podcast where two dungeon masters head out into the world searching desperately for 3 tips for you to use in your next game. I'm your Dungeon Master, Anto.
And I'm your Dungeon Breaker, Matthew Perkins.
You can find my stuff across the internet at icarus-games.co.uk.
And you can find my stuff over at matthewperkins.net.
Today, dear Matthew, we're going to be discussing game-breaking magic items. The magic items that ruin the games, but also make them the best things ever.
Oh, they break the game? It's broken.
Break 'em.
Oh, okay, so what?
Snap them in
What
half.
makes an item game-breaking then?
I would classify a game-breaking magic item as anything that forever changes the game. So it doesn't have to necessarily make it terrible, but it's the kind of item that once you introduce it, nothing is ever the same again.
Yeah, okay, so it's something so powerful that you go, I kind of wish we didn't have this.
Yeah.
Is that the feeling?
Yeah, either so powerful you wish you didn't have it, or something that so fundamentally changes the way the players play the game that you are now playing a different game. Like the tone or the style or the mechanics have changed in some way, or the story has changed in some way that it can never go back.
Okay, well, so now we've laid that groundwork of what a broken magic item is. Let me skate on that groundwork and do it like a sick kickflip off it as we look for the first tip. This is our quest for the first tip. It's from a adventurer named Let Me Explain from RDM Academy. And Let Me Explain says, how to handle the deck of many things? I want to test my ability to adapt as a DM. I know the deck of many things has a really bad reputation, but I'd like to give it a try. It will be interesting one way or another. Are there any particular cards I should exclude from the deck so it doesn't completely overpower or derail the story? How is it best presented to the party? What do you think, Anto?
Oh my god. I love that they're like, I want to stretch my kind of reactionary muscles. Let's do that with the deck of many things. That is definitely what will happen. You will stretch all of the muscles in your body needed to react to things.
Yeah, I've been thinking about like really stretching my ability as like a yoga person. So I'm going to break myself in half. Let's just see how that goes.
Exactly. Like, oh, I've been really interested in improving my fitness. I'm going to do the Iron Man challenge.
Which means you drink liquid iron. So what's the deck of many things? Do you know what it is?
So the deck of many things is a wondrous item. It's a deck of cards usually presented as a Major Arcana tarot deck. And each card in the deck corresponds to one of the Major Arcana in the tarot. And they each present a different ability or reaction or an event when you draw it. So drawing a card from the deck is activating a magic item and something happens.
Okay. Let's do an example. Like, do you have the list of all the effects there?
I do. So one of them is called...
Wait. Don't read him. Let's do it. I'm going to draw a card. You're going to tell me what I get.
Oh, yes. Okay, go for it.
Okay, Dungeon Master Anto. So my rogue, big Philly B walks up to the deck and says, "Ha, I'm not scared of this deck." And he draws a single card. Now, the single card he draws is the Queen of Spades, the Queen of Clubs. Which card in the deck does Queen of Clubs correspond with?
Okay. So Big Billy B rocks up to the deck, draws a card, turns it over, and sees the face of the card is wreathed in black fire as he draws the Flames card. And he feels
this can only be
this
good
sense of dread in his soul. And somewhere out there in the lower planes, a powerful devil has just become aware of our Billy B and has decided that he is his enemy, and that devil is going to seek to ruin and plague Billy B's very life and enact untold suffering upon him until he finally slays him.
But does Billy B, do I know that, or did I just feel like, it's broken?
I think you turn it over and you just be like, a fiery card. Cool.
Yeah, nice.
I feel a bit bad about this, but
Is it a foil? Is it a shiny?
Yeah, they're all shinies. You know,
They're all.
if the deck of many things isn't shiny, then what are we doing? Like,
That's really fun. So I lost, right?
Yeah.
I now have like Satan out to get me.
Yeah, a devil seeks your ruin and plagues your life, savouring your suffering before attempting to slay you. This enmity lasts until either your or the devil's death.
Okay. Well, that actually feels like a good thing to me. Like, as a Dungeon Master and a player, I like that one. I don't feel like my game's broken.
Yeah, here's the thing about the deck of many things. Some of them are like that, and that is super narratively dramatic, and you can take it in all manner of ways. But then you get some cards that you turn them over, and it's just game over for that player or that character just immediately.
Wait, so like, 'cause when you said it's a card of fire, I was like, am I on fire? Is that what we're doing? Like, I'm not scared of no deck. Draws card, catches on fire.
So, like, I think that the problem, if there is a problem with the deck of many things, is that it is such a swingy item. You either get something that is either really good or interesting, or you get something that does just stop the game dead in its tracks. So,
Yeah.
one of them, the Donjon card, when you draw that card, you just disappear. And then you are entombed in a state of suspended animation in an extra dimensional sphere. You cannot be found by divination magic, and you can't be removed from the sphere by anything other than like powerful magic like a wish.
Oh.
So you are just gone. The other players have no idea where you are, and unless they've got some innate knowledge about the deck of many things, they can't divine your location. So that character is just out of the game.
That's just like, I think in earlier drafts of the deck of many things, that was called roll a new character.
Exactly. You know, and that's why I think the deck gets this reputation as being so game-breaking, because it's got a smattering of cards that I don't think that is narratively interesting.
Well,
because it removes your character completely.
Look, I think it could be narratively interesting. Like, but here's the thing: it's not the story that you were telling before that. You drew that card, and now the story is something completely different. And the same with like the demon card. Now the story is something different, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily earned drama. We didn't build up any kind of relationship. Like, even though it is definitely a consequence of drawing the card, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a narrative consequence of your character growth or your character's decisions, except to say, I'm going to draw this card. Check this out, boys.
Exactly. And
gone.
The Donjon card in particular, it doesn't immediately create a kind of resolvable drama, because as is written, you just disappear, and the characters would have no idea why, unless they've got that intimate knowledge of the deck of many things, which most characters probably aren't going to have, because it is such a legendary item and so like shrouded in mystery.
Yeah.
So that character just disappears, and all the other characters like, where'd Jim go?
Where'd Jim?
Should we try and figure it out? Yeah, let's divine his location. We can't divine his location. Oh well, Jim's gone forever.
Rip. Critical Role did a thing. Like, they had, and Critical Role being like the biggest streaming D&D game in the world. I watched the first season for some reason. I had unlimited time, and they gave a deck of many things to their lowest intelligence character named Grog. And there was something narratively interesting about this just unfit character holding literally like the nuclear codes, pretty much. Like, there's world-ending stuff in there, reality-bending stuff. And he would multiple times drew cards, right? Mm-hmm. He got some great stuff. Like, he got 3 wishes once, and he accidentally like gave one of them away and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But he actually drew the Donjon card at some point, like right after their campaign finished.
Yeah.
He went, I'm going to draw the card. And he drew it. And then he disappeared. And then they did another one-shot, like a separate adventure, where it was like the quest to find Grog.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. That I think that the kind of tip that I'd be circling to ultimately is kind of you need to adjust some of these cards. But like for the Donjon, as an example, instead of having it as you just disappear and are kind of imprisoned, the way I run it is that it opens a portal and creatures come and take you. so that the players have got that visual cue that let them know kind of what has happened, rather than it's just puff, the character is gone, there's no information. At least it gives them something to work off in a more practical sense than, oh, we know that the deck was involved, but that's literally all we know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that suggestion of kind of like editing the deck a bit, you know? So instead of becoming the deck of many things, it becomes the deck of some things. And it's not necessarily this card's crap, so we're going to take it out. It's no, change the card so it does something else. And it does something that isn't necessarily
it's
game-breaking for your campaign. Like, there are some campaigns where, what if you're not running the Abyss in your campaign and you don't want your character to be taken to that place? Or, like, what if your campaign doesn't have demons and it doesn't make sense for a demon to, like...
Exactly.
You know, that would break your campaign in the sense that it's not on brand anymore. But you could specifically edit them with things that you're okay with. Because the deck of many things should not be Russian roulette for your campaign.
No. The deck of many things has such a reputation, but when I deploy it, I want the players to know that no matter what they draw, something interesting is going to happen. Even if it's a negative thing, it's going to be narratively juicy and there is going to be enjoyment in the suffering. And it's never just going to be a case of you take the card, draw a card, and your character is gone.
I would play up the threat, though. Like, I would lie to my players. I'd do an Anto and tell some fibs and say, like, hey, like, you could draw a card that literally unmakes the universe.
Yeah. I mean, I have run the deck of many things in the past. And
wow.
It was certainly game-breaking in as much as the characters in one session drew 9 cards.
That's too many cards.
From the deck of many things. And that was just utter chaos because so many things, they went to different planes and came back. They ended up having the creatures from the kind of 9 hells out with a vendetta against them. All manner of things happened, all condensed into one single session. It was almost like too much because they were just like, I draw another card, I draw another card, I draw another card. And every time it didn't just immediately murder them, it emboldened them to be like, this isn't too bad, we'll just keep drawing.
Yeah, here's the thing. Like, there's only 6 chambers in the revolver. Yeah. You know, how many times are they going to pull that trigger?
But I think that for me, one way to deploy the deck in a way that feels more satisfying is to look at what each of the things does. And then if it doesn't provide immediate drama or the potential for long-term drama, tweak it a little bit, keep the spirit of the card in place. So the gem card, you get 25 pieces of jewelry worth 2,000 gold each. So or 50 gems worth 1,000 gold each appear at your feet. So you get a whole bunch of money, basically. Now that is game-breaking in as much as potentially that's more money than the characters ever had, and they could buy all manner of things. But that's about as far as it goes in the there and now. So what I would do is add a rider that potentially that money is cursed in some way, or that the knowledge that they now have that much money brings misfortune to them, with people being like, oh, they've got that much money, I'm going to go and I'm going to try and rob them, or I'm going to try and con them, or other things relating to it that isn't just, there you are, there's 50 grand in your inventory, enjoy.
Like you're crushed by 50,000 gold.
Yeah.
I think that, like, one of the aspects from what you were just mentioning about your players drawing 9 cards is that if you draw enough cards, it will break the game no matter what. Like, even if you have reasonable things on the cards, you stack enough reasonable things. Like, dude, I love a donut. If I were to eat 10,000 donuts, that's no longer a reasonable thing, right? I'd be a legend. I'd be a living and then dying legend, but it's not reasonable. So I think that another thing that you should do with this is you should limit the number of cards they can draw. Just say, hey, you can roll... actually, do you know what? You can only draw 1 card. Screw it. You can draw 1 card each. Done.
The way it works mechanically in 5th edition is before you draw the card, you have to declare how many you're going to draw, and then you have to draw that many over a certain period of time. Once you've done that, the card kind of fades out of the deck and the choice pool reduces. but I don't think there's anything that says that you can't draw 3 cards this round and then say, I'm going to draw another 3 cards. But I think that perhaps adding some kind of conditional that you can only draw a certain number of cards, or you can only attempt to draw a certain number of times in a time period, is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I just don't like the idea.
What I may even
go ahead.
Is say, right, this is a legendary magic item. You can draw up to 3 cards, and once you have drawn them, the entire deck fades and is transported somewhere else in the multiverse.
Yes, I love that, because that really ties into the theme of like 3 wishes from a genie. You get 3 and then it's gone. That even ties into like the symbolism of that. Like, this is a world-changing, powerful magic item. Like other world-changing, powerful magic items, works 3 times and then adios.
Or even if we want to, I feel like this is becoming a trend. If we want to Dragon Ball Z it, once you've drawn your chosen number of cards, the deck like explodes and all of the cards scatter across the world and become inert until they can be gathered together into a full deck, at which time they become powerful again and you can redraw them.
That's it. I love that so much. I want that to be it. Dragon Ball, the deck. The deck of many Dragon Balls.
Is that our tip? Dragon Ball the deck?
Yeah, do it. Like, yeah. Yeah, that's so cool. Are you kidding?
I'm here for it. Dragon Ball the deck. Cool. So shall we roll for promotion?
I'm feeling lucky. Let's roll.
And if you're enjoying the podcast, you can really help us out by leaving us those likes and follows and updates and all of those things across the internet. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us those 5-star reviews with comments. They really help us out. And every 20 5-star reviews we get with comments over there on the Apple Podcasts, we release something from our Patreon out to the wider public. So you can get yourself some behind-the-scenes look at our pre-shows. It might be some playable content. There's loads of good stuff that you might get access to when we get those 20 5-star reviews.
Anto, it is me, Matthew, from beyond the grave. I come with a dire warning. An RPG horror story. Ooh, spooky.
Oh no.
I'm not going to do that voice for the whole thing. Do you know why? Because I don't know how to breathe and do that at the same time. I would just pass out. And that's the end of the podcast permanently. Okay, so this RPG horror story comes from someone mediocre local Five Guys. That's a funny name. From our RPG horror stories. And the title is DM Only Gives Cursed Items, Abandons Campaign When We Stop Picking Them Up.
Oh, God.
Okay. So overall, the campaign was good. However, the distribution of magic items was not. The first magic item that we picked up was an axe, and when our teammate picked it up, he had to roll a will saving throw with a DC beyond what a 20 could grant, and when he failed, he immediately began attacking his teammates in a bloodthirsty rage. Oh man. The second magic item we picked up was a small ring in an unassuming chest. Activating the ring would turn you permanently to stone. I should also mention that we didn't have a cleric with us. And the last magic item that we picked up was an amulet, which I was forced to activate via a will save, and it summoned a skeleton that immediately turned around and started attacking me. That's actually kind of cute. I kind of like that one.
Yeah.
So at this point, we just stopped picking up items. We had so far not found anything that was a net boon to our group. All the items we found seemed to want to kill us in some way, so we as a group opted not to take any more items from this cursed place, i.e. the world. We bypassed several items, and the DM even going out of his way to describe their opulence and divine wonder. One is a chalice, right? But we're not going to have it. Careful, boys. The more extravagant the item, the more horrible the curse. What do you think about this cursed story, about these cursed items, Anto?
I kind of have 2 feelings about this. On the one hand, that sucks for the players that every item they picked up was cursed. But on the other hand, I do love a cursed item.
I know you like cursed items.
I just think that the way they went about it with that might have not been the best way to do it.
Well, my favorite part is that, like, in the title, it says, we stopped picking up the items, and then the DM just, like, cancelled the campaign. Like, he doesn't want to play anymore because they're not picking up my traps. I'm putting all the traps. Come on, let me scare you guys. Come on, play along.
I think there is a way to do this right. If you had like a one-shot or a short campaign where you're in this location that's harrowing. Maybe it's some kind of extra dimensional game show where some otherworldly beings are putting you through your paces for the entertainment of their weird alien children, or whatever simple thing it is. Making it clear to the players that from the outset, like, everything in here is going to be cursed, but make it so that if they want the best chance of succeeding, then they need the benefits from those cursed items. So
make it worth it.
Yeah. Make it so that your cursed items still do useful stuff and they're not just useless.
Yeah. Well, actually, so what were the items that this person... There were probably more items that they didn't write down in their story. They had something that turned you to stone. That's clearly, like, unusable, right?
Yeah, that...
And then...
That one, just no. Big no for me.
Big no. No stone, thank you. No stone, thank you. The other one, what did it do? It was an axe that made you attack your enemies. Attack your allies. I don't like that. I don't like anything that forces a player to do something that they don't want their character to do. Like, that takes away player agency. I don't think that's fun. But the last one that they mentioned, an amulet that summons a skeleton.
Summon the Skelly Boy.
That could be useful. It'd be like,
yeah,
you could get out of like social circumstances. Like, oh man, I really want to leave board game night. Got to find an excuse. Oh, a skeleton. Oh no, guys, we got to get out of here. Board game night's cancelled.
So I don't think it'll come as any shock to you that I've deployed a large number of cursed items in my past.
Would you say like a criminal lethal amount?
Would 40 be considered too much
in
one campaign
one time?
What's the ratio?
What's the ratio of like cursed items to not cursed items?
So in my last campaign, the players realized they'd been buying their magic items from the same guy for months, and he was the only person they bought from. And when it was revealed he was the villain,
Sketchy James,
they thought, right, okay, we should probably look at the stuff he's been selling us. Everything he'd sold them was cursed. They had 40 plus items between the entire party that were cursed.
Wait, so they didn't know that they were cursed even when they were using them? So the curse didn't manifest in any kind of actionable way?
All the curses were trigger curses, and they didn't trigger the majority of them before finding out.
Oh, give me an example. Trigger me.
So one of them, one character bought a belt of dwarven kind, and actually the belt was a polymorphed basilisk. It gave them the bonus.
Stop.
But
it was... Jesus. Wait, so someone turned a basilisk into a belt?
Yes.
Oh my... Okay, wait. I'm just passing that. Okay, go. What does it do, Anto?
Bear in mind, the guy that did this was like probably the most powerful sorcerer in the multiverse at the time. But
what? He's the most powerful sorcerer in the multiverse. And he's like, I'm gonna mess with a lizard.
Yeah. Like,
I'm gonna ruin this lizard's day.
He followed them from place to place as an ally for a long time, but just like sold them criminally underpriced magic items or gave them away. And all of them were cursed in some way.
Like,
so as a ring example.
Sorry, I can't actually even with this. Like, so the bad guy was the merchant. He's just following around. It's like, my prices are so low, it's criminal. It's insane. I must be insane to have this low prices. Don't you want a deal?
I feel like context is important for kind of presenting how I did this in a way that felt satisfying for the players. So the second session, they go into a merchant, and the guy that's in there, they start speaking to him. They've taken immediate liking to him. Okay. One of the players is like, this guy's a bad guy. Okay. Because I voiced him with like a really hammed up Romanian accent. They just fought a vampire, and one of the players was like, this guy's absolutely a vampire. He's a bad guy.
Well, let's do this. Okay. So I'm walking into a shop. Ding, 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 ding. Oh, hey, how's it going? I'd just like to buy like a magical dagger. Nothing too big, something quite sharp. Do you have any magical daggers?
Welcome, my friends. Well, I have many things for you here. Let me just...
We have to leave. We have to leave.
I don't understand. What is problem? Why do you need to leave?
I run. I roll to run.
So you flee from the shop, and this guy, Van Vinder's his name. He looks at the rest of the party, and he's like, can I interest any of you in my fine wares? I have many sharp daggers and fine trinkets. I have box of rings over there.
We're all connected by ropes, and eventually, like miners, and like they just start getting dragged out as my halfling and barbarian just kind of like drags them out. One of them is buying something, just trying to pay pass it right at the end.
So with a ring example, they went in, the first time they went in, the barbarian was like, "Oh, I see a box of rings. I want to look through the rings and see if there are any magic rings. And I was like, yeah, okay, you can have a look. Yeah, there'll be a magic ring. It's a ring of +1 charisma. And he was like, oh, right, okay, how much is it? 10 gold.
Oh.
And it's like, well, that's obviously, that's too good to be true. I have to buy this, even though I know that it is almost certainly cursed. So they put it on.
My prices are so good, they're crazy.
Exactly. They put it on. Nothing happens. They feel more confident. They feel like their charisma has been improved. It's not until months later when they get a nat 20 on their charisma check that triggers the item, which paralyzes the arm that the ring is on.
Yeah, I actually see the tip that you're circling towards. And I'm for this kind of curse. I think that's really interesting because you don't know what the curse is. Because so many curses are like, okay, when you equip this, you can't unequip it, and you're constantly crapping your pants. And you, as soon as you put on these pants, they start to fill. You are now packing your britches permanently forever. You have 14 minutes to live. This is gross.
I mean, it's a classic one. We've all deployed it. Right?
Because I feel like what they're doing is so many curses give instant feedback.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's really satisfying. Because what that does is it takes away the joy of getting a cool magic item and replaces it immediately with like, oh damn. So they don't even get to enjoy the magic item at all.
So in the example where I gave them over the course of months, like 40 cursed items, when they discovered that, they didn't throw all of them away.
Yeah.
They chose to keep some of these obviously cursed items because knowing that they were cursed, they could see how they could apply the curses for their benefit.
Yeah, yeah.
So another one of the characters had a belt that was like bejeweled. And it turns out that the jewel actually contained an elemental fire dragon.
Now, this is separate from the basilisk, boy.
Separate from the basilisk. They bought a lot of belts. So when this was activated, the jewel would have exploded and an elemental fire dragon would have attacked the party. But once they knew that was the case, they're like, well, we can use this. And if we're ever in a situation where things are going terribly wrong, we just yeet this jewel at someone and the elemental fire dragon will fight them.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I kind of like that. And what did the belt do apart from that? What was its benefit?
It appeared to the players to be a strength belt, so they got strength from it, and they were a martial character, so they wanted all the strength in the world.
And they did get the strength. It did do that.
Yeah, they got the strength and benefited from the strength for months, and that was kind of the big juice for me. Was I introduced all these items, they got all the benefit from them for months. They built their characters around the fact that they had these items, and then when all of them turned out to be cursed, they're all suddenly much weaker than they realized they were, and they have to adapt and figure out new ways to approach problems because they no longer have access to all those things they'd come to rely on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we definitely know what the tip is. I'm going to leave it to you to articulate it. But first, just quickly, what did the basilisk belt? What did the basilisk belt boy do? What did he do? They
flushed the belt down a toilet.
Oh, that just wouldn't work.
So somewhere out in the world, there is a basilisk just roaming the sewers.
No, but what was the curse of the belt? Was it just that like you have to live with the guilt that this belt is conscious? It had dreams. You know, that's the curse.
No. The curse would have been that the belt would have transformed into, because basilisks in my game are more like the Harry Potter style, long serpents.
Oh, okay.
It would have turned into a basilisk and constricted you to death.
Ah. Well, hey, at least he can get to work on time now.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to just pull this basilisk out of his poor life, turn him into a belt. Oh, tragic. All right, well, I'm going to articulate this tip, and it's robbing you, okay? We're stealing you here. I think the tip should be that with cursed items, you should have a delayed trigger. You shouldn't get immediate feedback on what the curse is. You need to give people time to enjoy the item and then have some trigger down the line that's going to inflict the curse on them. And that way they get to at least have fun with it.
Awesome. I totally agree.
Well, hey, it's your idea. Of course you do.
So we still have one adventurer that is going to help us find a third tip for the day, and that is going to be Possessed Cow with a K from r/D&D. And their question is, how do you make random loot tables not break your game? Because a lot of the random loot tables that include magic items also include like bonkers magic items, and it is possible getting those powerful things is going to break the game. So they want to know, how do you avoid that situation without making the tables boring?
Loot tables are fun. Like, I do like them. They're a holdover from old school D&D, I presume, right? Because it's also in like all the old video games. I just like the gambly nature of it, like of not knowing what you're going to get. That's so exciting, you know? It's like, it's the reason I love Diablo 2. Like, you go, oh, I'm going to find these magic items. What am I going to get? Let's find out. But then the problem is that sometimes you're going to get something that's too powerful for you, because the way that loot tables work in D&D, and they're in the Dungeon Master's book, the book for the Dungeon Master, the book of the DM, they have a kind of exploding nature where if I'm rolling on table A, right, table A or whatever, and that's graded for characters of first level, right? If I roll 100 or really high on that, then suddenly it goes, okay, and now you also get to roll on table B, and that can explode into table C, and eventually, if you explode just 1 or 2 times out of your, leveled appropriate table, suddenly you're finding stuff that's casting spells that you don't have access to. It's giving you abilities that you shouldn't have yet. For example, if you find something that lets you fly long before anybody has the ability to fly, suddenly you can start bypassing that low-level content. That's not good for your campaign.
No. Loot tables are one of the things I like the least in 5th edition. Like, I like loot tables as a concept, but I think one of the least useful things in the DMG is how it presents treasure and loot. Because it does... Are you serious? Because
that's literally all I use. That's all I use from the DMG.
Because I think that it has too much of that crazy variance, and there's too much of a chance, if I'm just purely rolling on the table, that it's going to introduce something not level appropriate or game breaking into the game.
Yeah.
So I never roll from the DMG's loot tables. I only ever look through them and choose something from it.
But that's not the fun. Like, so that's... Okay, here's half the fun. Finding magic items. That's great. It's great that the players get magic items. In your case, they're cursed snake, bloody basilisk boys. But the other part of the fun, as far as loot tables, is... wow, we could get something really good.
Yeah.
Like, there is intrinsic value, I think.
I completely agree.
That feeling. But you just don't like the way that 5th edition does it. Like, what does it better for you? What does it better?
I think that Pathfinder did an excellent job of kind of loot, because everything was segmented by level. It wasn't his loot appropriate level 1 to 5. It's his loot that is appropriate for level 1, for level 2. And they're separate, which means that you get the full random nature of it, but you don't have such a wide bound. Because if you roll something that's appropriate for a level 5 character as level 1, that will break a level 1 game.
I'd presume, is there crossover? Can I find my wand of spider friendship on this table and on that table?
Yes, I believe so.
That's no good, because I don't want it. I don't want to be friends with no spider. Get it away from me. Look, I have had an instance where a loot table has messed with my campaign, where my wife, she was playing a character, and she exploded out of her appropriate table, and she went to a higher level, and she got like a wand of monster holding or something. And there were like 2 or 3 encounters that she just got to end pretty much, because she was like, okay, they can't move, and then we do a war crime on that person. And it was super not fun, to the point where each time she did it, I'd say, hey, I just want to let you know, I am going to nerf that a bit. I'm going to reduce its power level a bit. And I kind of like kept tweaking it down. But no matter how far I took it, it was still really powerful, because I was just tweaking it to the point where if she rolls well now, she can still end. She can still end the encounter. But even when she was bypassing encounters, she did love it. She felt like she earned it because it was her magic item.
I think that the completely random loot for players, excellent. They love it. They love feeling like they've got more power than they know what to do with. But I think our jobs as DMs is to make sure that that feeling doesn't come at the cost of the entire balance, and doesn't come at the cost of the rest of the party. So you could, as like in the treasure hoard tables in the DMG, the challenge rating 0 to 4. So you could be a level 1 character. One of the options gives you like almost 500 golds worth of gems, but it also allows you to roll on the magic table, one of the magic tables, for 1d4. So you could end up with 4 magic items out of that treasure hoard.
Well, hey, I will point out,
level 1.
I will point out that is for a horde. If you find like a massive, massive treasure, like if you were to rob a bank or find a dragon's hoard, then that's what you would roll on. That's not an individual item. That is meant to be a bunch of items.
That I would argue that is not something a level 1 party should be doing.
Oh, no, probably not.
Because like and this is my problem. It presents it with the option to say, oh, you've got a level 1 party and you want to come across a horde of things. Well, that's fine. But then it's giving them access to 1d4 of those magic items.
I just realized something. I think we're fighting. I think this is a fight. Because I mean,
it might be a fight.
I like them. Like I think that they're actually okay. Like I get that sometimes it does break, but I think it breaks by design. Like if you are rolling, doing anything randomly, then yeah, there's some stuff on there that you might not necessarily want, but like I'm okay with that. I don't care if they get something that's, do you know what? Yeah, let's overpower the party. Let's fight. Yeah, I'm okay with overpowering the party. Come at me.
Overpowering the party is how you end up with 40 magic items in your group.
All of them cursed.
All of them cursed. But the thing is, like, I'm flicking through now, and I don't think that it is possible to individually get a magic item.
No, there is, because it says like
the individual tables are all gold. Like all of the individual tables are just gold rewards.
Oh yeah,
and it's not until you get to the hordes that you start getting magic items, and you immediately start getting the possibility to have multiple.
Yeah. Look, if you're going to use the tables as they're presented, that's fine. But I just mean specifically, I would just say, hey, you find a magic item, let's roll on table A.
Yeah.
You know,
that's how I would do it.
You find a magic item, you roll on table whatever, like, and that's. But even table A or whatever, the bottom one of that, of the lettered tables, that does say now you can roll on table B. Is that correct?
I will check. Not in the tables themselves. It will be in the treasure tables where it's like roll 1d4 on treasure A and then 1d whatever on treasure B maybe. The big problem that I have with the tables doesn't really apply to me because I have been DMing long enough that I can look at what is presented and kind of find the gaps and find how to implement it in a way that it doesn't kind of break the game. My problem with it comes from how it's presented to a brand new DM who doesn't have decades of kind of contextual experience with the game and have never been a player before. All they've got is what's written in front of them. And if all they've got is what's written in front of them, they're probably going to use the tables as presented. And if they use them as presented, it could vastly overpower their game and they might not understand why that's happened.
Yeah.
And suddenly they're following the CR rules because that's what the book says to do, and nothing is a challenge because 1, CR is hot garbage, and 2, the players are decked out with magic items that the DM's not accounting for because they don't have that experience.
I do sympathize with that. The fact that some new DMs do think that, like, okay, after every fight we roll for loot, and that's kind of like a video game. You kill the goblin, and all the loot falls out of it, and that's what they're kind of doing with these tables sometimes. I know me as a new dungeon master, I wanted to roll on these as much as possible, but I did limit it to the crappy one where like the best thing you can get is a potion of healing or like a drift globe, which is just a big marble, the big gobstopper that lights you up.
Yeah.
But look, I sympathize with that. But I still like them, you know. And now we've talked about it, I even like the idea that they could explode. Like I think maybe they should all explode. I think my problem with them is that I just don't like some of the items.
Yeah.
There are some items in the game that I don't like.
I think that if the lists aren't curated well enough, because at level 0 to 4. In the horde table, as an example, 1d4 rolls on some of those tables will give you +1 weapons and +1 shields and +1 armor and like +1 things. Now, you could roll 4 of them, and that would quite drastically unbalance a level 1 party. Maybe not a level 4 party, perhaps, but a level 1, definitely. Whereas I think that what they should have done is more granularly separated out the tables so that at level 1, you roll on a specific table for your treasure, and then you're only going to get stuff that isn't going to be such a problem.
Okay. Well, okay, so let's try and work out solutions. Here's the thing. I don't agree with you that it's a problem. But that doesn't mean we can't be best friends and work out a solution together. We can. It's teamwork. I don't want to do another Druids episode where we just probably smash each other.
The thing is, it's a weird one because it's not a problem for me because I have the kind of experience and contextual tools to navigate around it. I find it a problem because when I think about a brand new dungeon master and think about how they encounter this text, I see the places where it could be a problem for someone who doesn't have the kind of extra layer of knowledge to go, okay, I see how that's a problem immediately. And they just follow what they are told from it.
Well, I think the key word that you said earlier was curate, right? We're trying to curate something that's appropriate for our game. And there are two ways you can do it. You can curate in how often you roll on the magic item table. So if you just promise yourself, we are going to roll for loot during significant moments, okay? Or as a reward for significant deeds. And you'll of course have the players saying, hey, can we roll on loot for that? Like they'll be excited and they'll be chasing you for it. And you've just got to control that faucet a bit and just work out when the balance is right. And the second way you can curate is by looking at the lists and just working out what those magic items are and being like, am I okay with putting this in the game? A little bit like the deck of many things.
Exactly.
And it might mean you say, you just keep a mental note. If they roll that number, just say, oh, actually roll again. We're not doing that one. Or, oh, dude, I just got it in my head.
Yeah.
You definitely don't show the players the list.
No.
Right?
Absolutely
You never show them the list. So whatever they roll, if it's something that you don't want them to have, just give them something that you do want them to have.
Yeah, I think that if you still want that feeling of randomness, if they roll a 4 and you don't want them to have item 4, well, choose either item 3 or 5 around it. So you still get the feeling like their role is kind of dictating it, but you're not having to give them items that necessarily break the game.
Yeah.
Because I think the extreme of it is you just decide ahead of time what items they get, and that is fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want them to roll, and if you want them to have that spicy feeling of, oh, what are we going to get? We could get anything. Then deciding exactly what they're going to get before they roll, you're kind of falsifying their roll. You could definitely create your own tables.
I got to push back because I'm not okay with actually getting them to roll and then just giving them whatever you want. I'm okay with getting them to roll, but if it lands on something that you definitely don't want them to have, just nudge it, Just nudge it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, good, because I was worried that you were saying get them to roll and then just, I don't know, give them coal. Who cares? I'm bad Santa.
Yeah. I was saying that is an option, but I don't think it is the right way. I think if you're going to have them roll, the roll should have some kind of impact.
Even if it's just like a ballpark, like you rolled a 4, so you get a 2. Okay, that's cool.
Exactly. Should we figure out what the actual tip is?
I think that is a tip.
What, curate your list?
Yeah, I'm a fan of this. And there is something I did want to add, and this is not a tip. Okay, this is just a fun little thing that I do. Whoever gets to roll for the loot, that's a really exciting special thing to be able to do. And normally when you do this, you have to roll a D100, which means you roll the D10 and you roll the decimal one with the two digits on it, right? That's 2 dice. Give each player a dice. Just say, hey, you 2 roll for this one.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
And then the next time, it's you 2. I do it every time, and we roll them one at a time.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, it's a 1. Oh, what's the next one? If this is like a 0, then it's going to be something great. They get really excited.
I like that a lot. That's really good. Yeah, I like that.
That's good. I'm glad I could help you. Hey, but you've got the actual juice for the real tip. Articulate it, my friend. What is it?
So our third tip is to curate your list of magic items to make sure you're not introducing game-breaking things to your
Excellent.
players.
So reasonable. Such a reasonable thing. Hey, this one was actually quite fun. I just realized now that the second tip we arrived in about cursed items, I don't think that had anything to do with game-breaking stuff. We just wanted to talk about items.
Yeah, I mean, cursed items can break the game, though. I think we kept it on point.
We'll let the audience decide.
Yeah, if you disagree with anything we said, or if you have your own thoughts on how to handle magic items, cursed items, game-breaking items, please let us know in the YouTube comments or over on our Discord or anywhere across the internet.
And if you're really enjoying this kind of stuff, if you like this silly kind of juice, then don't forget to click follow on your favorite podcast platform.
We need to condense our 3 tips to remind our dear listeners what we've talked about today. So tip number 1, was to Dragon Ball Z the deck of many things and have it kind of explode out and have to collect all the pieces. Tip number 2 was have delayed triggers on your cursed magic items. And tip number 3 was to curate your random magic item tables to make sure that the players aren't getting anything game breaking.
Such succinct tips. We're so good at this.
Yeah. My name is Anto, and you can find my stuff across the internet at icarus-games.co.uk.
My name is Matthew. You can find my stuff over at matthewperkins.net. The song that's playing us out is called All Together by a band called House House. And you've been listening to No Plan. No problem.
You made it to the end. You listened to all the music. Well done.
You've done it. This is the end. This is the true end of the podcast. You got the secret ending. Anto was the real villain.
We're like Marvel now.